After our last tutorial on displacement maps, we did cover a little bit about vanishing point in that tutorial, and I wanted to cover that in greater detail in this one. What we have is an image that I took off of a realtor's website, the house they had for sale. I may use this image again later in another tutorial to show you how to get rid of this ladder in case you get a picture like that, but for our purposes today, this is going to work fine. So let's go ahead and create a new layer by clicking on Create New Layer icon down here at the bottom of your Layers panel. And on that layer, let's select our Marquee tool. And with our Marquee tool selected, let's go ahead and draw out a rectangle. It's roughly the same dimensions as that window. And with that done, let's hit Command or Control Delete and fill that with our background color, which is white. And with that white fill, let's go ahead and make a copy of that and put it on our clipboard by hitting Command or Control C to make a copy. And now let's deselect it by hitting Command or Control D. And we no longer need that layer, so let's go ahead and hide it. But we do need a layer beneath that, so let's go ahead and create a layer just above the background layer. With that layer selected in your Layers menu, let's go to Filter, Vanishing Point. And you can see I've already drawn that out, but let's delete that and we'll go ahead and do it again. We're going to click in the corners of the floor, and then we're going to come down the wall, following the lines of the wall. Do it again here, and again following the wall and click in that corner. And we have a good plane for our floor. Now let's go ahead and hold down the Command or Control key and grab this middle selection and pull that up the wall. And now you can see we also have a vanishing point for that second plane, which is our wall. And with that done, let's go ahead and paste in our triangle that we made by holding down Command or Control and hitting V. And drag that onto our plane. And as you can see, that's quite a bit too large. So let's hit Command or Control T to go into free transform mode. And let's go ahead and scale that down this way. Move that down the wall so that we can actually grab a point there. There we go. And let's scale it down this way. That's probably pretty good. Let's see. Nope, that's still way too long. And as you're doing this, these controls while you're on the vanishing point are very, very touchy. So you need to, sometimes it'll jump a long way, but don't worry, you can always fix it. Now that we have it the way that we want it, let's go ahead and move that up the wall, move it away from that back wall just a little bit, and I want to shine it about like that right there. Now that we have that in place, let's go ahead and hit OK to exit our vanishing point menu. And you can see right now all we have is a box that's on the floor and on the wall, and it doesn't look very good. So let's apply a filter, blur, a Gaussian blur. And about 7 pixels should be just about right to kind of fade that out. So let's click OK. And it's still very harsh, so let's go to our blending modes and change that instead of normal to soft light. Now that looks more natural. Now after that's done, we also need the light rays that are going to be coming in here. So let's create a new layer above that layer. And again, with our Marquee tool selected, let's go ahead and draw out a rectangle that's going to be roughly the right size. And this time, instead of filling it with a solid white, we're going to select our gradient tool here, and I'm going to hit X to change so that white is my foreground instead of my background. And then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to drag a little gradient here. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this side, drag another gradient here. Holding the Shift key, it'll make sure it constrains it. And that looks pretty good. So let's hit Command or Control D to deselect that. And let's move that into position by grabbing our Move tool, moving it down here. Then Command or Control T to get into free transform mode. Let's hit Control or right click for the PC users, but Control and click, and let's use Distort. And we're going to move these corners toward the corners of those lights are shining. Move this top one down to the top of that one there. And we're going to do the same thing on the window. We're going to move that down to the corner there by the fireplace, and then the top one up to the very top of that right there. Let's go ahead and hit enter or return to accept those changes. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll do a filter, Gaussian blur. As you can see, it's at the top of my filter menu because I just used it. If I hit that, it will use the same settings that I just used, which is fine because that's what we want. So let's go ahead and apply that. And then do the same thing. Let's do a soft light. Now, if that's a little too soft for the sun rays coming in, you might want to change that to a hard light, but I think it's just too harsh. So I'm going to leave it at soft light. And now you can see we have the sun rays coming in the window with our vanishing point shining on the wall on two different planes. I hope this helps. Until next time, this is Dave.